Red Riding Hood, or another art lesson by the Braden River High School Art Department. Picture This, or How Pictures Work by Molly Bang. This is the story through shapes, how we infer meaning from just basic design. Do I feel anything for this shape? I don't know this shape. Yes, I do. It's a triangle. Well, what makes a triangle special? It's got 3 sides. If I had 4 sides or more sides, it would not be a triangle. It'd be a pentagon, an octagon, a square, or a rectangle. But this is a triangle. It'd be a great tip of an arrow or an edge of a spear. But I'm not going to use it as such. Think about the hoodies that you wear. The way the hood actually fits on your head is a kind of triangular, rounded triangular, but a kind of triangular shape. And for the sake of our story, I'm going to use this triangle to represent Little Red Riding Hood, one of the most famous fairy tales of all time. But I have a problem. How do I make her look little? I can simply add a larger triangle to make Little Red Riding Hood look little. It's a size comparison. You just assume if there's a big object, the smaller one is like a little baby. Oh, look at the little baby triangle. Yeah, well, that's how simple our minds work. Just that size comparison, we just assume it's bigger, more powerful, and maybe the parent. But when they both had sharp edges, they were competing for attention. In fact, the mother was drawing more attention. But the star of the story is Little Red Riding Hood. So how do I make her still important? If I soften the edges of the mother, then it's still Little Red Riding Hood who's being edgy. And edgy grabs attention. I've changed her color. I've softened it, like I've softened her edges. She seems a lot more approachable now, doesn't she? A lot more huggable, maybe? In comparison and contrast, look at the edgy Little Red Riding Hood. And now I put a shape in front of the mother. I'm playing around with our preconceived notions of we have built-in stories in our heads. For example, we think of mothers as givers and providers because often they are. And here it looks like the mother's giving something to Little Red Riding Hood, maybe some sort of sustenance, some sort of food or some sort of care because she's holding the bowl. But where does Little Red Riding Hood's story take place? Well, it happens in the woods. And if you think about pine trees that you normally find in a forest, they're kind of triangular shape. But there is a problem. Those original triangles were too close to the shape of the original Little Red Riding Hood and her mother. We know that we've already had to change the mother to differentiate her from Little Red Riding Hood. So maybe we should alter the trees. Plus, by playing with the outlines, or what we call the contour of the trees, it's going to give them a more organic or tree-like shape. Little Red Riding Hood is little, and this forest is supposed to be enormous. So, in order to pull that off, maybe we can't see the tops of the trees. Maybe she's walking through the trunks because she is so small. And to create the depth that this is a large forest, we need perspective. Part of the way you do this is look at your own hands. If you pull one hand away, it'll start appearing smaller than the hand that is closer to you, even if it's roughly the same size. So what we've done here is we've taken the trunk, look at the trunk close to the middle of the page, and we've made it smaller. Even though it might be the same size as the ones in the foreground, it creates a sense of depth that you could walk into this massive forest. What can I do to make this picture feel a little scarier? I can put one of the trunks slightly in front of her, like she's peeking out from behind it to see if there's any danger. And why does it feel scarier when she is smaller? The more I make the massive trees, the more vulnerable she looks. How can I make the trees feel more threatening? Another great way to make this a lot scarier is to add more of the story. And while Little Red Riding Hood is a children's fairy tale, it's also a deep, dark story where a wolf is hunting the little girl in her family. Diagonal lines give a feeling of movement or tension or energy to a picture. There's our wolf. And the question is to ask about our wolf, why does those massive triangles look so scary? Well, Mr. Farrell, you just gave it away. They're big, they're large, they're dark. Our imagination is trying to make sense of these big, dark, large shapes in comparison to a little Red Riding Hood. When making the wolf smaller, it doesn't have the same feel, the same scariness as it did before, does it? If I change the points on the triangles that make up the wolf, it doesn't make it as scary, does it? And if I change the color of the wolf, it also makes the wolf feel very different. Like this looks like a party wolf. Party on, wolf. What are the features of a wolf that make him so frightening to us? They need teeth. And maybe an eye. If I put the same color of Little Red Riding Hood into the wolf's eye, it shows a connection. Now we also have the mouth, the eye, and Little Red Riding Hood all the same color. That means they're associated. It also means the wolf probably wants to eat her. Why does this picture feel even scarier now? Because we put in an environment. And that environment, it's a darker color, but it's a darker, warm color. So you know something energetic is about to happen because of the color that we're choosing. Because energy usually means warmer color. Think reds, yellows, and oranges are warm. But it's also a darker warm color, which means it's harder for our character to see. And when we can't see things, or you know your character can't see what's about to happen, it's scarier for them. And we can empathize, or we can feel their fear. Now those teeth are white. And why does that matter? Now we've really brought attention to the wolf. You see, when we read an image, we read left to right. I'm going to see Little Red Riding Hood, but I'm going to be drawn to the wolf. Why? Because that bright contrast against that dark contrast. Those bright, bright teeth against that dark shape that makes up the wolf. And what's going to bring back to Little Red Riding Hood is the eye, the mouth that's open with that tongue are all the same color as Little Red Riding Hood. So they share a color relationship that's going to keep bringing me back, almost in a circular motion. I'm going to go Little Red Riding Hood to the eye, because I read left to right, to the tongue, because it's bigger, then to those teeth are really going to stand out, and I'm going to keep going back and forth in a circle. And what you've done is you've essentially captured your audience's attention, almost like you've trapped them into looking at your image, and that's effective. This, my friends, is the essence of Little Red Riding Hood. It's about showing that contrast of innocence and toughness, but still dealing with greater dangers in a deep, dark forest. Look at all we've captured just using some very basic shapes in telling the story. With some very basic shapes in your work, you could tell amazing stories. This is why we do thumbnails and sketches before we do a final project. Because you could build out of these basic shapes incredible things with your imagination. Legos and building blocks come in basic shapes, but you build amazing things with them. I'm Farrell, and this has been a Brain River High School art production.